Divine Message Guidance Cards. So what are these all about? And why do you care? Divine Message Guidance Cards are a card deck, very much and very similar in some aspects to Oracle type card decks, angel cards, fairy cards, saint cards, different types of tarot cards. Falls into that category of a card deck that we would use for helping guide our journey. Sometimes when we're unclear in our mind or with our emotions, we're not sure what we're doing in our lives or what we should be doing in our lives or whether or not we're being guided or not. Sometimes we need to step outside of ourselves and outside of our mind and seek some assistance somewhere else. So that's where things like card decks can help us along that way. So what's different and unique about these cards, these Divine Messages cards? So a typical Oracle card deck has all kinds of different types of imagery involved and messages, meaning you pull a card and a card may have a name and a title to it, and it'll have either a message or inspiration about how that particular card may mean something in your life. So sometimes it comes on the back of the card itself, if you can see that there. Or often you'll get a little book that actually would describe all those little messages and what they could mean to you or for you. Now, what's different about these is that when you pull the card, first of all, you can't tell what it is just by looking at it unless you memorize the images. So it's very inspirational that way, as you're going through and you're finding a card without knowing its name until you flip its name around the back. And they all have a name called Divine something or another. This particular one we're looking at here says Divine Purification. So as a card that you can use to guide yourself or help guide others in a type of reading or oracle type fashion, these are wonderful for that. And they have all kinds of interesting, unique messages that you don't find in a lot of other card decks, meaning things like purification, for example, or clarity, or completion, or courage, or endurance, things like that. And the reason being is when this came about, initially these were inspired by a book called Divine Messages. And when the book was coming to be created, in my mind I thought, things like, peace, tranquility, abundance, these are messages that people need in this message type book. So when I started doing the book, inspirationally, I was guided to give different messages like purification, relationship, completion, digestion. He goes, well, these seem like strange messages to me. Don't people need tranquility and peacefulness and abundance and things like that in their lives? And the idea that came back to my mind said, no, nobody needs that stuff. People are struggling in their lives, and what they need to support their struggle, they need strength, they need endurance, they need clarity, they need completion, they need to understand their relationships better, they need to heal their relationships, they need to know about energy and space and how that can help them in their lives and where they live. These are the things they need. They need support and well-being. When we reduce the suffering through all these other messages, then abundance and tranquility are natural things that we will just experience because our suffering has been diminished. So that's why these messages are so different and unique. They're different types of messages. Now here's the real cool part. Every single one of these cards has its own energy. This is not human language. Best I can call it is spirit language, spiritual language. To me, I call it divine spiritual calligraphy because that's kind of what it looks like to me. Now, when you look at the card, it's got a number of different aspects. There's this large black character, a small red character, and then this little seal, stamp. That stamp is just me. It's like signing the artwork as an artist. This part here, this big black one here, that's the main message. In this particular case, divine balance. So if I do a card shuffle and I go through the process that the book describes you to do, and I pull a single card and I get divine balance, it goes, okay, well, maybe somewhere in my life I need to work at balancing some aspect of my life. And depending on where you are in your life, you'll know where that is. So that's great, just by itself. Now here's where it gets even better. This card has inherent its own spiritual energy because it came from the spiritual realm. It never came from my mind. And when you awaken the energy of this card, this particular one, being divine balance, shares the energy that comes from the spiritual realm that has been embedded into the card with you or who you may be doing this reading for. So the card reading says, hey, you need some balance. You awaken the card, and then you can meditate with it, place it on the body, and it is sharing the energy of balance to you and for you. So even though you may get a message from the deck saying this card is good for you in your journey today, turning on its energy actually implements what you need immediately. That's what makes these cards so much different and so unique. If you want to know more, or if you're curious about how else you can use these cards, they're so unique that they inspired me to make two different classes. And I got one coming up. In September 21st, I'm going to be starting a class on spiritual communication called Methods of Spiritual Communication. And these cards play a very significant role in many ways. We learn how to use them in a way to connect to our spiritual aspect and to get messages and to receive messages through them and how to interpret them. But in addition to that, because they are energy-based cards, we can actually utilize these cards, and I teach this in the class, on how to develop the energy in your body so you can become more open to receiving spiritual communication. So that's why there's such a robust and interesting aspect and why they're so unique in the oracle card genre of spiritual tools. So thanks for listening today, and check out my website, www.garysavitsky.com. If you want to look for more information about the cards, you want to purchase some cards, or if you want to take some of the courses related to these cards and see how they can change and enhance your life. Thank you, and take care.